Welcome to the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shayla Toombs-Withers. As a double board certified family and obesity medicine physician with over 12 years of experience in medicine, I teach motivated individuals how to achieve their desired quality of life while preventing and reversing chronic diseases. It's tea time. On today's episode of the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast, I have a special guest, Ari Tulla. Ari is a San Francisco-based entrepreneur and the co-founder and CEO of Elo Smart Nutrition Service, transforming food from the cause of disease to medicine. Ari is also an active angel investor with a portfolio of 40 startups, including Verta Health, Good Eggs, and Ara. Ari has held positions as CEO of Quest Analytics, the market leader in doctor data and network management, and co-founder and CEO of Better Doctor, a doctor search engine. Ari has an additional background in the technology industry and led Nokia's game and application studios in the past. When Ari is not working and parenting, he spends his time rock climbing on steep cliffs, powdery slopes, and taking on big cold waves that only Northern California can offer. Welcome to the show, Ari. Happy to have you.
Thank you, Sarah. Great to be here.
Awesome. So Ari, just share your story for us with this background that you have combining technology with health and wellness. What has inspired this interest for you?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. And it's great to always, talk about my favorite topic of health and human performance. My story is not very different than many other tech entrepreneurs who turned into healthcare. It's all based on my personal life and my life experiences. So in the past, there were incidents that we can talk about in a moment that led me to believe that my time is best used in working in the field of healthcare, and it's really a complicated world when you think about the health and the healthcare system in the US especially. It's never easy, but it's very rewarding to be able to work on things that actually have an impact, not just on people, but people's health. And as you well know, when people get sick or they have a health issue, that becomes the top of mind and nothing else matters. So you go from worrying about something irrelevant, and then you get a health scare, and that becomes the only thing that you think about. So that's why I really like about this field is that when you help people, and what I have done myself, I worked on 10 years in an area of access to care. So how do we help people get health care? How do we help people find the right care for them? How do we help them to navigate the system? Is very complex. So that was one area that I spent a lot of time, and it's very hard today still, because you are at your weakest when you get sick. Right. And often then you don't get the help that you need. You have to do it yourself, but you are just worried about every day. You're worried about even your survival, and then you have to kind of navigate with this very complicated system that can be very faceless at times. Exactly. And now for the last 3 years, I've been focusing more on what can we do before we get sick? What can we do to prevent illness in the first place? And I'm a big believer in the idea that, as you alluded, food can be medicine. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the chronic conditions today, the lifestyle conditions from diabetes, heart disease, to even Alzheimer, are dependent partially on our diet. And we all know deep down, and we all know what our mom told us. And it's just very difficult to follow the guidance from the mom or from your brain when we are living in a world of abundance, when food is around us and often highly processed, highly high in sugar. And that's the world that we are living. And many of us are really struggling to be able to eat the right food.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's so much important things that you just said there. And one of the things that I like about what you do, even from a technology standpoint, is that, people a lot of times, like you said, when we're sick or unwell, we're in the hospital or what have you, we aren't thinking about that technology piece. But me as a physician, I know the importance of the work that you all do because it helps us to provide even better care and better access to heal and help people from that perspective. So, yeah, all of these things play a part in our healthcare system and are so important with the work that you're doing. And now, even piggybacking on that nutrition piece that you spoke about, being the co-founder of a product that focuses on improving one's nutrition in a more personalized way. Tell us a bit more about that and what have you found that contributes to optimal day-to-day performance and health with you also being an endurance athlete.
Yeah, certainly. So I think to kind of step back a little bit and give you, I always like to talk about the why and start from there, because we
Yeah,
can all read about the what on LinkedIn and the web, whatever, but often we neglect the fact why people do certain things. And for me personally, the reason why I got to healthcare in the first place was because, like I said, family experience and my own experiences. So uh, 2000, my wife had a thyroid tumor that was found out of nowhere. That was something that you don't expect when you're 20 or something, young, healthy, athletic woman, and that led into a lot of different issues downstream. So her uh, tumor was taken out, and then part of the thyroid together with it, and that led into autoimmune diseases, hormonal imbalances, a lot of these unknowns. We don't know what they mean, what they do to you. And then later we realized that those issues also led into challenges of becoming pregnant. When you don't have the hormone balance in check, it's very difficult to get pregnant. And there were some medications that inhibited the whole thing. So that became the first big dilemma we had in our life, that what we do about that. And we spent almost a decade of trying to find a way to solve it. And in the end, it was not one thing, but it was partially about diet and nutrition. We went into no wheat, no meat, no sugar type of diet. And that's kind of the diet that is now helping a lot of people with different
right.
autoimmune diseases, where you can lower the inflammation in the body, and finally the body actually can heal itself, which is
Exactly.
magic in many ways.
Yeah.
And now we talk about a lot, but this was over 15 years ago, and it was pretty new, and we had help from a very, very great physicians who were kind of looking out of the box. And then later, we had to go to IVF, and we were very unlucky that our first son died. So there was a lot of drama in that we spent so many years to get there, and then finally it was basically taken away from us. Now we have two healthy children, so we are all happy in the
Oh,
end. But it was a long battle, and that made us both super users. And my wife has like a PhD on her own on these topics by just being and managing her own health.
right.
And that made me a believer on two things. First, I realized that the healthcare system is hard to navigate. And the second was that food truly can be medicine, and is medicine. And I have two beautiful children to prove because of that. So I'm a firm believer as anyone can
Yeah.
be in this topic. And for me, I'm from Finland, so that's why I speak maybe funny at times. I still have an accent, but I played ice hockey as every proper Finn should do, and on a pretty high level. And then later I became a rock climber and a hobbyist athlete, a little bit of endurance athlete and so forth. I still try to train 15, 20 hours a week at the age of 45. And it's not easy anymore when you get older. Gaining muscle is harder. Just keeping your body in check and recovering is more difficult. So for me, the food has always been a very key piece. And we started, of course, to do these things a long time ago. And of course, as a good husband, I went along and I completely changed my diet. And I've been on a low carb diet for almost 20 years now. And that is the diet that I think a lot of people now are prescribing and going to when they want to lose weight, when they want to live longer. And I think that's been a big impact for my life, that I can still perform pretty high level at this old age, because I recover faster than almost any of my peers. And it really relates to the diet. So
Right.
that's a very key piece, in a way, that it's not only about lose weight or try to live longer, but also performing better. And I mean performance, not just about on the track or on the bike or on the gym, but really it is for me about performing best at every day, having the energy to be a good husband, good father, do great in the boardroom. I'm involved in a lot of different businesses, and you have to be at your best to be able to cope where you do your work. And then of course as a bonus, you also can then maybe run a bit faster or hike the mountain better.
Right.
And that's kind of that's my viewpoint on this topic, and we can talk more about kind of the detailed learnings, like how to do, what to do, and so forth. But that's on a high level for me, the why. And it's super important, because if you work on things that you absolutely care about, maybe even love, I mean, that makes the life much more rewarding and fulfilling.
Right. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing your story and your life's story with us. That's very inspiring too. A lot of the work that I do is exactly what you're saying, is teaching people how to put more plants on their plate for their health. And there's things that you said about even just day-to-day performance. A lot of what we see and hear from people is that, oh, I'm feeling sluggish all the time, or, oh, I don't have the energy to go work out. Well, a lot of that is from what we're putting on our plate, and we are able to move more, go faster, go longer. We're eating foods that are energizing and giving our bodies that natural boost that we need, and not consuming those foods that are causing inflammation and sluggishness and weight retention onto us. So yeah, that's so important and fantastic with what you shared. Even with myself, being a triathlete, and in the triathlon world, a lot of the athletes are more plant-based. And it's because, with that level of training, what we do see is that you feel much better when you're consuming more healthful foods, and you are able to push through that next workout, or, that next race, without feeling like you need a whole week of recovery in between, which sometimes you just don't have time for.
Totally.
Yeah. If you're frustrated with your weight, taking more medications than you like to, have been told that you are at risk for the development of a chronic preventable disease, or just are not feeling in the best of health, then I'm talking to you. Why? Because you're tired of fat dieting. You know it's time for a change, and you want a sustainable plan to improve your health. If you have found yourself at this place in life, well, I have developed a program that's just for you. It's called The Essence of Health, and it's your prescription for transformation. My goal with this program is to give you the tools needed to create sustainable lifestyle changes within a group coaching setting, along with one-to-one individualized coaching to give you a personalized path to health that's just for you. The benefits are priceless, so join today. Head on over to eohcoaching.com to learn more. The essence of health is in you. Now, also just going back to some of your experience with health technology, in that we just came through, this whole global COVID pandemic, and healthcare technology was really put into the forefront with us having to do more telehealth type of things. What are some other modalities that maybe are coming forth, or that you even have thoughts of that should be coming forth, that could be helpful in improving healthcare accessibility for individuals?
It's a great question, and I started Elo at just before the pandemic, or while it was starting. So I had no idea that it will take place, and I am building a company that is requiring few things to happen in the world that you can do what we do. So we are building AI-driven personalization for nutrition. We are taking data from your body. Think about your blood biomarkers, or the wearable device information we get from your recovery or your activities, your HRV, your sleep, and so forth. And then we take information together with that raw data. We of course do assessment like you do for your patients to understand where they come from, who they are, and then we use that data to provide people the right nutritions. And we have a feedback loop where we can learn and make it better over time. So that's the Elo in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
And to make that happen and to make it possible, three things had to happen and had to happen. And they were democratization of the wearable devices and the data from our bodies. So if you think about, let's say 5 years ago, very few people had, maybe few people had Apple Watch and some people have a Fitbit, right. But it was pretty basic. You were collecting steps, maybe some heart rate data, but pretty basic. And today we are living in a world where we can collect data from a glucose monitor, understanding your glucose spikes on a real-time basis by a sensor you can put in your arm or your belly. We can look at your sleep in multiple different ways. We can look at heart rate. We can look at the heart in a much better way. If you think about Apple Watch, the AFib detection, for example, is saving lives daily basis. So that has been evolving hugely. And today, half the people in the US have some type of a wearable tracker that they use, which is pretty unique. And then the second point that we need is we need to make and get data from your body by the biomarkers. And biomarker, of course, like I count my Aura or my Apple Watch or my Whoop as a digital biomarker. But normally when we think of biomarkers, we think about blood test, saliva, urine, stool, like biomarkers from your microbiome. So we want to really tap into that real data. That if you think about, of course, for you as a doctor, blood biomarkers are the gold standard. And most of the clinical decisions in the US today are made after a blood test. So blood test usually leads into intervention, leads into operation, leads into medication and so forth. So blood is really the thing that you need in healthcare system to be credible. So we started to do blood testing in the beginning at Elo, and we test about 15 different biomarkers. And of course, that system has been quite complicated. Nobody really loves to go to lab and we take 5 vials of blood. It can be scary. Nobody really loves the fact we can do finger prick today at home. It's also a bit scary to do, a bit messy. So I think the biomarker testing, it has to evolve, and it has evolved a lot. So there are millions and millions of people who are doing now testing at home. You all have done the COVID testing, putting the swab in your nose too many times. And now we can actually get the results at home in some cases, like the COVID test. So we are not really there yet. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you will be able to do a painless test at home, getting a little bit of your blood, and then getting the results then and there. And also that data will then flow into your doctor's office automatically. So that will be a big game changer, I think, when it happens. And also, I think there will be a moment when the testing of the biomarkers can also happen in a way as like the glucose monitor is today, which is a real-time basis. Think about if you could get your cortisol for stress, for example, in a real-time basis, understand it. What if you could get your lipid panel tested every day? What if you get your A1C tested, on a quarterly basis, always at home? That has to happen and will happen, and it will really enable companies like Elo to do better work, because it is all about the long-term trajectory. One measurement doesn't really matter too much, but if you get the many measurements and you can see the trending in the wrong direction, then you can do something about it. And then the last point, I think, for us at Elo that was critical is that the food delivery completely changed in COVID. I don't think we even fathomed, because it happened, kind of gradually. But all of us have tried, food delivery by Instacart or DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatnot. That was not the case, 5 years ago. Very few people used it in few cities like New York and San Francisco. But now half the people in the US have tried food delivery, and it works in every city more or less today. And that enabled companies like Elo to actually not only, guide people, but also deliver nutrition at the spot. And that makes it much easier. So you don't need to, necessarily cook your own food, but you can actually get the food directly from somebody else. And those are the three modalities: the biomarkers from your wearable devices, the blood biomarkers, and then the food delivery that will be able to make hundreds, if not thousands of new companies possible that are going to try to focus on the prevention, not on the treatment after you're already too sick.
Yeah, I love that. And I personally would be excited to see the day when we can have more accurate home testing for folks because, a lot of times people have work issues and they have, trouble with somebody keeping the kids and all these kind of things and just have trouble getting those labs, even getting to the lab to get those labs performed in a timely manner. And like you said, and then by the time you draw the labs, they aren't, real time. So now it's several days later by the time you get the results, and then you're making decisions on something that didn't necessarily actually happen right at the moment for what you're trying to do. So that would be great. And then the other, with the wearable devices, the continuous glucose monitors have totally been like a game changer in the world of nutrition and health in general. I even have folks that I have will monitor their glucose continuously just to give them an idea of what certain foods that they're consuming and how that looks for them, because it also gives that mental feedback too, with you being able to see those things in real time to say, maybe I shouldn't have, 2 donuts. If I can physically see that, my blood sugar spiked way up there versus when I had that apple and it, stayed more steady. So yeah, just having those types of physical evidence can certainly be a game changer in health.
And it's a great example that you just said, because I think the CCM, the continuous glucose monitor, is the first time we are getting near real-time feedback on what we eat. I mean, think about today, for most people, it is about the weight scale. And that's a very pack view, mirror view, a way of analyzing your body, because it takes many months to see the impact on the weight scale. But in this case, like you said, if you have sensitivities for certain food, for example, my problems, I've been using a glucose monitor for 3 years now myself on a daily basis to understand my body. And of course, you don't need to use 3 years. You can do 1 month and you understand probably enough to make life decisions and change your behavior. But for me, white rice is a no-go. I spike dramatically. Oatmeal is a no-go. I used to eat oatmeal every morning. I stopped it after I saw the data a few years ago. And for me, like tamales and corn are something that doesn't really function. It spikes my glucose. So I took those away. And then over time, you learn to kind of hack the system a little bit. Like if you add a bit of fat, you add a bit of protein, you cadence different foods in a different way, and you won't spike. And it's so interesting that if you think about like Italian diet, I don't mean pizza and pasta, but I mean like how they eat in Europe, in many countries in the Southern Europe, in the Mediterranean, for example, they always start with the salad, pretty heavy on olive oil. And then maybe after that, they have a pasta. I mean, it doesn't spike if you do it that order. And then if you do a little bit of red wine, it also tends to spike away. But if you have the pasta only, you spike dramatically. Mm-hmm. So there have been these habits that we created thousands of years ago that are the right way to eat. And now, of course, we often forget that we don't have the salad in the beginning, or we don't have a glass of wine. I'm not saying you have to have wine, but
right.
It's just interesting that the wine is damping the glucose impact heavily. And one thing I learned that I talk quite a bit about is that there is this concept of ancestral diet. And I come from a northern Finland, where you basically lived with berries and game. It was like a foraging society still 200, 150 years ago. You can't cultivate anything like corn or even wheat barely in the country, where you have 6 months of year has snow on the ground. So it's a very narrow diet. And then I come to this world of abundance, and I have rice and stuff like that none of my ancestors ever had. And I'm spiking like crazy. Other thing, when you go to, I was just in Japan, you go there and you look at people's reaction to rice. They can do rice much better than I can, because they've been eating rice for almost 1,000 years. Right. So you have developed the ability to tolerate and the kind of the DNA has morphed over time to tolerate these things. So that is an interesting thing. If you think about yourself, maybe you have done 23andMe and you see where you come from. Think about for a moment the type of diet that your ancestors, not your father and mother, but your grandfather and before, what type of diet they ate. And that might be the diet that might be best for you as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, the other key to that, which you pointed out, is the personalization part of it. There are so many times where people might just Google this diet plan or something. There's just no one size fits all approach to this thing. And like you said, just having things like the wearable glucose monitor, and you just being able to personally see for you what that, nutrition might look like for you, because for you, you may can have these specific items, but not these other ones, versus somebody else. It may, be totally vice versa in terms of how their body may relate to it. And that's the other component of too of why I also got into health coaching as a physician too, to help individuals more personalize this guidance for themselves, because you do find so many people who just kind of jump on these bandwagon fat diets and just think, well, I've seen everybody do this, so I'm going to do this, but that may not be the best thing for you.
And the diet, in my opinion, it's just this sort of a silly word that we invented to keep it simple enough for our reptile brain to cope with it, because there's so many different type of food. So it is about the way to limit your eating to a certain box. And then, of course, if you stay within the box, you likely end up eating, better foods. That's kind of the idea. But often the box is so narrow, so complex, that it's impossible for people to adhere to. So one thing that we did at Elo in the very beginning, and we are a company that will focus on complete nutrition over time. The first product we created was a personalized supplementation product based on your blood biomarker test. We realized that 120 million, more than half of the American adults, take supplement pills every day. Half of the people. And when we looked at the data, we realized that nobody knows if they take the right ones. They maybe heard from a friend, maybe they went to a podcast and then heard somebody doing something, and then they copied the modality. And
Or they
then they
look
went
on the
into
shelf and
Amazon.
at the red stamp that says, "Oh, this is good for that," and let me just grab some.
Totally. And then they went into Amazon or Whole Foods or vitamin shop, and they bought vitamins and minerals. And of men especially, they often go to CNC or somewhere, and then they buy these black bottles, say that like ultimate power or muscle or whatever,
Right.
lipido, which is bullshit. But the point was that that's what people do today, and many people, most people believe that there's value, but they truly don't know what they are taking. So I was trying to, like, with the team, come together. Can we build a product that would make sense out of this mess? And only way really to know what you need is to do a blood test and analyze your health. And that's what we did. And we realized that 80% of people have deficiencies in the nutrition today, mainly vitamin D, B12, iron, and also then looking at your lipid panel, looking at your A1C, looking at your homocysteine. We saw issues on 80% of people in the first few thousand people we tested. And that to me was like eye-opener. And then we immediately realized that, because we asked on an onboarding flow what medication people take, we ask what supplements they do today, we ask how they eat. And we realized that most people are taking wrong supplements today that do more harm than good. Most people almost were taking some mega dosing of vitamins that make no sense for them.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized that many people, half the people who come through Elo, they are taking some medications. And we realized that many of the people are taking supplements that interfere with the medications. Nobody had ever asked about that. They never talk to the doctor what they're doing, because they think it's like safe and food, whatever.
Right.
So those
Because
were the
it's
kind
over
of
the
big
counter,
findings.
they automatically feel like, oh, I can just buy it off the shelf, so surely it must be safe.
100%. And nobody ever really had the system like we do, where we look at the medication against our supplements, and then we basically take them away automatically if they interfere with medication. We always err for the medicine, so we take the supplements away. We tell people not to do certain things that can interfere. But that's what we did. And now we have people who come to Elo, and at the 6-month mark, many of them have eradicated those deficiencies by taking the right things. And every day our AI is optimizing the right dosing. And there are things that people don't know, like many people here, I think, who listen, they take stuff like green tea extract, or they take herbal supplements and so forth. They sound super safe, and many of them are, but they don't realize that often you have to cycle in and out.
Mhm.
So it's not the right way to do that. You pick something and you take it for the next 10 years every day. You should have like a 1 quarter, then have a 1 month, off, and then continue again. That's the right way to get the benefit. Nobody knows that. Amazon doesn't tell you that when you buy the supplements in
Right.
a big container, but we do it automatically. And the beauty, I think, what we have done is that by delivering people these, simple pouches every day, we take the complexity away. You can have up to 7 pills per day. I mean, that's quite a few already, not the most fun to swallow, but the ease of having the daily pack coming to your way every month, and then we automatically change it based on the data. And then we tell you exactly what we learned. We are as transparent to you as we are to ourselves. And if something didn't work, we also tell you that, and then we try something else. So that's kind of the idea. And I think the one key piece we did also that I think you appreciate is the fact that we added the health codes, because we believe that there has to be a human touch. There has to be trust involved. There has to be ability to lean on somebody. We all know that a personal trainer works, because if the personal trainer is at the gym waiting for you, you have to go there. And
Exactly. You
that
have that
works,
accountability
and
that yeah.
exactly. They don't, all time you learn to do the thing yourself, but having the accountability of somebody waiting for you there and putting you through the motions works. Same applies to health coaching, same applies to dietitians, nutritionists. And that really has been a big impact that, many of our members, they really utilize that benefit. So we have, Elo has an app, and you can talk in an app directly to your personal coach whenever you want, 24/7. And a lot of people use that on almost on a daily basis. And they are the ones who get the biggest outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right, Ari. Well, we'll wrap this up. Any last tips that you like to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, I think, one thing that, like I already said, we often heard good guidance from our moms, and we often didn't listen or don't remember it anymore. But the basic idea of good health is not that complicated. It's a lot about the combination of recovery and sleep. I think that's one of the most important building blocks, because if you are well rested, you don't get urges to eat the wrong things. You have more time to digest. You have more time to decompress. You have more time to, make your brain work better. So that's, to me, the key piece. And I mean, I tell a lot of people, not only because I'm an investor in the Oura Ring, the sleep tracker company, but I really recommend people to focus on the sleep a bit more.
Mhm.
And only way to improve your sleep truly is to go sleep earlier. Go sleep an hour earlier, and I think your life will improve dramatically. The second area that I think we already talked about is the food and nutrition, very important factor. And I often say to people that don't eat too late, don't eat after 7 p.m. or drink alcohol after 7 p.m. and you sleep better, and that becomes a positive feedback loop. And then lastly, I don't think you need to exercise or I'm a bad example in a way that I'm burning the candle, I think, too much at this age. But you need to move. And it's not about running or being fast or at the gym, but moving, walking, going outside. And that has a huge impact on your health. But I don't think many people, when they try to change their health trajectory, they get the personal trainer and they go too deep into that. They get injured, whatever, and then they stop all the time. I mean, if you don't sleep properly, if you don't eat well, the exercise really doesn't matter, in my opinion.
Right.
It can help, but you have to get the basic building blocks in place first before you can really, fix the whole thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I love all of those tips. One of the foundations that I teach through Essence of Health is even the concept of mind-body balance, and it's a lot of
Yep.
what you talked about. So, having your nutrition as well as your movement, as well as your sleep and your mental health at a sound level, because all of those things are going to interact and interconnect with one another. And once we have that balance, then that will really optimize our health. So thank you for just really, yeah, honing in on those points and sharing those with us. And so how can folks learn more about Elo Health and connect with you?
Yeah, you can. I can be found very easily on the Google Ari Tulla. I think I'm the only one with my name. So first page is probably me. And Elo Health, you can find it at elo.health, not elo.com, elo.health. And you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, elsewhere, elo.health. And today we have two products out. One is, like I discussed, supplements that are optimized based on the blood biomarkers. And another one is a personalized protein product that we add supplements, green powders, electrolytes into a protein. We make it custom to you, and that's based on the wearable device data. For example, that if you go to a workout, we notify after workout how much protein you need, so you get the right dose to the right time. That's, I think, one interesting one. And we have a few more products coming out this year that are going to be super exciting. So I would love to have you try and test us if you're interested.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'll be sure to put those things in the show notes for our audience too. Well, Ari, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me today on the Essence of Health Tea Time podcast. Click the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a moment of the Essence of Health Tea Time podcast. Check out the show notes to obtain your free tips for healthy living guide to get you started on your health and wellness path. Follow me on social media at Essence of Health Wellness Clinic on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and at dr.tw@EOHWC on TikTok. Interested in becoming a member of the Essence of Health coaching program? Well, head on over to www.eohcoaching.com. The essence of health is in you.